Hey everybody, welcome to Talking Habs The Video Podcast for October 30th, 2019. Gotta get my date straight. In this podcast, I'm going to be taking a look at Habs prospect Raphael Harvey-Pinard. Take a quick look at his season. The Habs 3 stars of the week. Should we get new line mates for Nick Suzuki? And see Markov signs in the KHL. Let you know about that. I got a couple of announcements. And we'll get right into the podcast. So, Raphael Harvey-Pinard. He was drafted this past draft in the 7th round, and quite a steal for Montreal, if you ask me, in the 7th round, especially in the 7th round. I think he's going to be a solid player for Montreal. He was in the Memorial Cup last year. His team won. He was the captain, I believe, of the Rouyn-Noranda team. And right after or over the summer, he was traded to Chicoutimi Saguenay. He's the captain there, and his first season there. And it's his last season to play in the QMJHL. He's a 20-year-old, so he's an overager. So he started off a little bit slow there. I imagine adjusting to a new team, a new city. He had, in his first 5 games, he had only 1 assist, so it was a disappointing start, and I was hoping he wasn't going to have some kind of a drop-off or something was going to happen to him. He had, after 8 games played, he had 5 assists, so he started to pick it up in the next few games. And at this point right now, in 14 games, he has 15 points. So this past week, he started to light the lamp. He had a couple of goals in a couple of games with some assists, and he's been doing really well. I don't have the breakdown of everything. I just wanted to have a quick talk about him. So I really think that he should be a top 10 scorer in the QMJHL again this year. I believe he was last year. He's a really smart player. I see this guy being a third-line winger, a scorer, because last year he had 40 goals and 45 assists in the Q. So I'm kind of expecting similar numbers. Those should translate into pretty decent numbers in the NHL. Especially for a third liner, you're looking at 40 to 60 points a year from a guy like that. That's what I would expect from a guy like that. I just really like him. My prediction is he'll be here in Montreal by 22-23. So I think he'll finish the season here in the Q this year. Can't go back next year. I could see him doing 2 years in the AHL before making the leap. And you never know, could be ready earlier under Joel Bouchard, but that's kind of what I see. I really like this kid. I said it from when they drafted him. I was surprised they got him in the 7th round. I was really surprised. I don't know why everybody would have passed on him so much, especially that he's an overager in the queue. It's not like he's got another draft year, really. He would have had to have been signed as a undrafted player. So I think we'll see big things from Raphael Pinard. Okay, so that's just what I think about him. Habs 3 stars of the week was a pretty decent week this past week. Culminating in that beautiful win against Toronto. So my Habs 3 stars of the week are first star definitely Joel Armia. I guess you could argue Jonathan Drouin, Joel Armia, 1-2. Armia basically because you kind of expect these things from Jonathan Drouin, but from Armia, it's a bit of a pleasant surprise. He's got 6 goals in his first 11 games, leading the team in goals, making some really nice plays. He moved up to the second line and he didn't seem out of place there. So Joel Armia, his game is really starting to come in. He came into the league really as a kind of an offensive player, and he just never really got the right opportunity, I guess, in Buffalo or in Winnipeg to be to be on one of the top 6 positions. So in Montreal last year, he had 13 goals, 10 assists. It wasn't great offense, but that was in 57 games. He was injured to start the season. So I think this year in a full season, I would expect, he's on pace now for 40 goals, but I don't think we'll see that. But I would expect 20 from him. I would be disappointed this year if Joel Armia doesn't get 20 goals. And kind of a breakout season, which I had called for earlier in the summer. I was saying I think he'll have a breakout year. And if he continues to play in the second line right wing spot, I think he'll show some offense. Second star for me is Jonathan Drouin. Like I said, you could argue that Drouin could be first start. He had a great game against Toronto. Those 2 breakaway goals, both in the 5-hole. You would think second time around it wouldn't have been easier, but it seemed like he scored easier the second time around. That Hutchinson should have been prepared for that. So Jonathan Drouin is just playing great. He's aggressive. He's playing well defensively. He's taking the body. He's making plays away from the puck. And when he gets the puck, he's showing his dangles and his offense, and his passing is a little better than well, I can't say than last year, but at the end of last year. He's doing well on the power play. Not as many points as I would have thought he would get on the power play, but the power play is doing really well. So, third star of the week for me, Nick Suzuki. Nick Suzuki is starting to show what he's got. He's starting to show his talent, even though he's being kind of sheltered on the fourth line. Obviously, they started him out the season up in the top 6, and that didn't really work out. He was nervous. He wasn't able to make plays. It seemed like he wanted to get the puck off his stick when they were on the offensive side of the game. His defense was fine and all that. Now he's turned it around. He got his first goal, and it seemed his confidence. He came into his confidence, and you could see by the way he's not just dumping off the puck when he gets it. He's starting to carry it a bit. He's making better passes. He's getting the chances. You can just see the confidence in him. His defense was always there, I think. He's got great anticipation and vision, this kid. I'll say that leads us into that. Should we get new line mates? In 11 games, has Nick Suzuki come to the point where you want to see him in the top 6? I definitely want to see him in the top 6. That's where he's going to be eventually. That is for sure. Does it have to happen right now? I kind of think not. I kind of like what's happening with him. I think another few games there. I'll go as far as saying a quarter of the season. So I could see him going 20 games there. Building on that confidence, getting a few more points. I like the way he works with Thompson and Cousins. Definitely seems to have some chemistry there. He's playing some sheltered minutes there. That's true. So he's getting to play and show his offense against, not against the top line. That's Deneau's, Tatar, Galley. That's their job. And it's helping him gain his confidence by playing against players that should have lesser ability than he does. And I don't think it's a bad thing to let him go there as much as another 9 games. Probably going to get beaten up for that one. But yeah, I think at the 20-game point, if Nick Suzuki is still doing well like he's doing right now, and he's progressing, then yeah, I could see him being moved up. I'd actually kind of like to see him play with KK. I'd like to see them move him up one line onto KK's wing because the top 2 lines seem to be pretty set. I don't know if you want to mess with top line. You're not messing with the chemistry. But the Domi, Drouin, now Armia, I'd like to see that go. And if it can continue, I don't think you're going to want to mess with the chemistry there. I can see Suzuki and KK working well together. Problem is they're both young guys, 19 and 20 years old respectively. And I don't know if Julian wants to do that. But both are responsible defensively. We know that, so it's a possibility, right? And that's kind of where I think his next progression is up to there. So, should we get the new line mates for him right now? I don't really think it's necessary yet, and I don't think Julian. I'm gonna say I'll be surprised if, say, next game, yeah, he's moved up, and it's possible that they'll do that, but I just don't think they're gonna do that. Yeah, I'm gonna say Mark. Okay, I don't think I want to say anything more about that. We're gonna just see how it happens, but I think by game 20, you're gonna see him move up, as long as he's still progressing the way he is. Markov signs in the KHL. He signed a 1-year contract with Lokomotiv Yaroslavl. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. So obviously we can put to bed any talk of him signing here. I don't think that's going to happen now, considering even what's happening with the defense. I can't see him signing since he signed there. Well, he can't. I don't think next year is going to be any reason to have him think of Markov to sign here. So that should be the last of the talk of Markov signing here. Not to put him down. He was a great defenseman, a great captain here. I don't want to put him down, but that should be the last talk of having him sign this year. Well, it will be for this year, but even for the future. I'll make a couple of announcements, I guess, now before we get into you guys' questions. Um, I'm going to be doing, based on based on Joe's idea of doing a Habs player power ranking. It's not exactly how he put it, but that's essentially what it is. So I'm going to be doing every Sunday. I might start it this Sunday. If not, it should be the following Sunday. A power ranking. So I'll take the skaters and the defense. So all the skaters, no goalies. I'm not going to put the goalies in. We know the power rankings amongst goalies. I don't think it's a problem. Unless Price happens to get hurt, and I might then include that. But so we'll do the defense and the forwards. And so it's 20 players. 21 players, I guess, and I'll do it just like the power rankings. The guys will move up and down depending, every Sunday. We'll see how guys are doing. It might get a little bit repetitive. I don't know. We're gonna have to see. It's just we're gonna check it out. But yeah, so I'm gonna do that every Sunday. Also, just want to remind you of Saturday Night Hockey Talk, the live stream. It's going to follow the games every Saturday when they are at 7 or 7:30, or if there's one of the rare afternoon games, then I'll do the live stream right after. In a case like if it's Wednesday or Thursday, they're going to be later games. In the case that they're after 7:30, I'm going to do the live stream before the game. So say there's an 8 o'clock start, 8:30 start. I'm going to do it, a couple hours before the game. So look out for that, I guess. And also, just to say, leave any questions for next week, any ideas you might have for me, any questions about the 70s or 80s in the comment section. So any questions for next week, please leave them in the comment section. I encourage you to do that. I'd love to hear your questions for next week, and plus I'd like to have some questions to answer for next week. So those will be questions that I answer. I don't research them, so they're off the top of my head. So I'm not going to, you say this and that, I'm going to come back with this and that, and I'm going to just tell you what I think on it. I don't prepare this till at the very earliest the day before. Like today, I'm actually filming on Tuesday, but that's the earliest I take a look at them, but I only take a look at them the day I'm going to film, so I don't write them out or don't do anything like that, no research. So I find it better like that, so at least we get an idea of what I think about something. So I encourage you to please, in the comment section, any comments, any ideas, anything you really want to say, down there in the comment section. So let's get to our questions. Our questions of the week. I have 9 questions from five of my subscribers or viewers. So maybe you're not a subscriber. I think all of you guys are. And let's go with it. So number 1, first question. And this is going to be a tough one because, like I said, I read them obviously as I write them today, but I didn't do any research, and I'm not sure if I'm going to give a good answer on this one. Let's hope. So from Dark Musician, what is Bergevin's plan for number 1 left D? The plan better not, this is from him, not me. The plan better not be wait for Romanov. It'll take years before he's ready for that role. So this is a really good question because at this point, it definitely looks like they've got to do something with the defense. And I guess it's kind of true. I don't know if if it can be a realistic expectation for next season that Romanov comes to training camp and boom, he's our number 1 left D. It's a possibility that that's not going to work out, as Dark Magician says, for a couple of years. And that's realistic that a young defenseman comes in and it takes him, a minimum of 2-3 years to be a number 1 pairing defenseman, right? Except in the case of Mete, but it was pretty much out of desperation, right? And he had the wheels to play with Weber. And it's turning into a good pairing, I think, over time. And as Weber drops down to the second pairing with Mete, I think that's the better place for them. So, what can be done? If they play like they did against Toronto, there's not much needs to be done, really, quite frankly. And I think it's more of a case now of that second defenseman, or that number 2 defenseman, being Petrie's partner and not Weber. I think Weber and Mete work well together. I think Weber, like I said, is actually going to be in the second pairing. So that makes Mete number 4, which I guess you can argue that he's not even a number 4, but I think he is, and I think that's a better spot for him. At the very least, that's a better spot for him to be number 4 and in the second pairing. So we need to find a guy that can play with Petrie. And now Petrie, it's not necessary to have a guy that can that has the wheels and has that offense. Petrie can provide a lot of that, but we want a guy that's a QB on the power play, and a guy that can play with Petrie, even if he has that offensive side, that they can make sure always somebody back and it's not leaving a hole, that way. And I don't know, at this point, I was talking about Shane Gossesbeer in the summer, and he's not having a great start to the season. And I don't know, it's a possibility you pick him up. Just because he's not having a great start to the season doesn't necessarily mean anything by itself, but he had a bit of a drop off season last season. He's not having a great start to the season this season, so I'm not sure that he's the right guy. I don't know. So I'd still like to see maybe a possibility of a guy like Nick Leddy because he's a veteran, been around a long time. It's more of the guy I want to see, somebody maybe a little bit older, but not too old. So a guy that can come in here for 2-3 years, and then we can wait on a Romanoff to take that spot. And yes, Shea Weber's going to be old, and it's going to be past his time probably at that point. I get that, but we have a lot of good defensemen prospects. So if a few of them do pan out, we're going to be fine on defense. But I don't disagree that it's a possibility that we need somebody this year. I didn't think starting out in the season, and I said that I didn't think that they'd need to make a trade, but maybe they do. We're going to find out, again, in the next 9 games. Same thing like I said about getting Suzuki onto a better, promoting him. I think by game 20, if we're still up and down with the defense, then something needs to be done. And I would think that Bergevin is working on something, or trying to anyways. I don't know if he's got anything that's actually in the works, but I imagine he's trying to find a solution to that problem. For me, as a guy who watches the Habs but doesn't watch a lot of other NHL games, right? So I'm admitting that. I don't really have any ideas outside of what I was looking at in the summer, and haven't found anyone or any names that have come up in the early blush of the season to really put somebody in there, and more than likely anyway, the way Bergevin trades, it's going to be somebody we could talk about, I don't know how many, and it'll be somebody we weren't talking about and we weren't thinking of. So I can only add that Nick Leddy, and I don't know if Leddy is available anymore. So I'm sorry I don't have a better answer for that, but I do believe, though, that it's coming to the point where something may need to be done, yes, via trade with the defense. Next question. Hab Nation. Oh, no, you're not next yet. Glenn Way. Because a couple of you guys gave multiple questions, and I'm not answering them all in order, so we'll get to that. Glenn Way. Glenn Way's second question to me was, are the Habs, with their smaller forwards, capable of winning a 7-game series? And this is another really good question. And it's funny that I mentioned Hab Nation before, because this is a talking point we have. So I think, yes, they are capable, but it's going to obviously depend on the team that they're going to be playing against. So if they're playing against a big bruising team like St. Louis, like who was just here, any of the teams that are on the big side or are big, a 7-game series where you're playing game after game after game against that same big team, it does get tough. No doubt about it. I'll agree. So it's going to depend on who they're playing. As long as they don't get bigger themselves, like Ryan Poehling coming up will make them a little bigger, although Cole Caulfield will make them smaller. But so, and this is a good point about Cole Caulfield. If you have a guy like Cole Caulfield, you might not have to play too many 7-game series, right? If you have that sniper that makes that difference, and you can win the series a little faster, it's not something you want to go and try to make your game plan on. That we don't have to worry about it. We're gonna win in 4 games. So I get that, but yeah, I think it could be a problem in the playoffs if the Habs don't get a little bit bigger up front. And it's not to say they have to have everybody that's big, but I think when you have It's something like of the top 12 skaters, I think something like half of them, six of them are small, under 6 feet. So you want to cut that down to maybe four or three of them being that size, and yeah, so it could present a problem. But listen, they're capable. You can catch it. Look what happened with Tampa last season. Columbus took them out. I mean, who would have thought, right? In 4 games too. It was so these things do happen. So they're capable of doing that. But I think it would be a worry going up against a team that's as big as St. Louis in the first round of the playoffs. Yeah. So I'm admitting that size. It's not that I said size. It doesn't matter. I said size doesn't matter in the individual player, whether he's good enough to make it to the NHL and whether he's worth drafting. But size overall as a team obviously does matter, because when all your players are smaller than the next team and they're banging them around, you're going to wear out. And in a 7-game series, yeah, your chances are not as good. Okay, hope I didn't spend too long on that. Next question. This is from Hab Nation. Will Carey Price get his second, or his second? Will Carey Price get his 2 rings to silence his critics? I think 2 is a lot at this point, maybe to expect, but I think 1 is a good possibility. Nobody can answer. Will he? Don't know. I can't. If I could predict the future, I'd be a rich man. But I think there's a good chance that as long as Montreal keeps in this way of developing their players, of drafting well, making smart trades when necessary, and it may turn out we might need a little bit better coaching. I don't know. I'm not upset with Julian yet at this point, but I know a lot of people are. Maybe a new manager, although I don't think that's going to happen, and I'm happy with Bergevin. I don't make any bones about that. So I don't know. I think two rings might be a lot to ask for. I think he should just look at one at a time, and we should one at a time and not look beyond. It's funny, I had a comment, and I'm not putting this guy down. I don't know if he's a subscriber or not. I know he's a Leaf fan, and he was saying how that the Leafs were going to win the cup in the next 3 out of 4 years because that's the way they plan to do it. So I said to him, do you really think the Leafs are going to win the cup this year? And he was talking about Babcock, I think Babcock's going to be looking for work soon if the Leafs don't get better. And he was kind of not surprised, but still well, this is the way they planned it. Yeah, I think every team plans to win. I don't think it happens that way. That's all. So I thought that was funny. So, look at one at a time. Don't plan for 2 because just because you planned, it's not going to happen. And but I think a definite possibility Montreal, in a 3 to 4 year window. And look, it's possible that in 4 years, if Cade Primo's rise is as big as it seems like it might be, we might be facing a decision of trading Carey Price because Primo is ready and we can't keep him as the backup any longer. This could happen. So I think in the next 3 to 4 years, Price has a chance to get 1. After that, I don't know. We'll have to see. I think at this point in his career, if he could get 1, I think it would silence the critics, though, at that point. I don't think he needs 2 to silence the critics, but he's going to need 1, I think. Next question comes in from down here. Sup Dog 81. Sup Dog. He wants to know who gets the most goals this season. I imagine it's pretty much between 2 guys, Domi and Drouin at this point. I think we got to look at it and say, you might add Tatar in there. Let me see who else we could add in there. I don't think Suzuki, who I had high hopes for to get up near there, will. I can't see anybody else in the lineup that could challenge for that. If Armia keeps going like this, he will challenge. But I think it's between Drouin and Domi. And I I'm going to have to say Domi, only because Domi has already scored 28, so we know he's capable, and we would imagine at his age that he will maybe even improve on that. So, yeah, I'd have to go with Domi there, but it's definitely, in my mind, between Domi and Drouin. Hey, guys, let me know. That's a question I'd like anybody watching this to let me know what you think in the comment section. Who do you think would have the most goals this season for the Habs in the regular season? Playoffs, we'll come to that if we get there, right? Next question is from Staxers. Staxers, and I believe the next questions are going to be a little bit on the from my day. Staxers would like to know, was Guy Lafleur a franchise player? And I would take it Staxers is either just wants to know my opinion, and he's similar to my age. I don't know how old Staxers is, but I'm going to say he never saw Guy Lafleur as a player. Definitely, Guy Lafleur was a franchise player because, listen, as many great players as there were, Guy Lafleur genuinely is in amongst the top. In my mind, he's the best Hab player to ever have worn the uniform. That's my, and it's a subjective thing, obviously. But he's in that conversation of the top 4 or 5 to ever have worn a Habs uniform. And I think just in that, then he was definitely a franchise player. If you never saw him play live, I feel bad for you, because even though the game is different today, it's a faster game. It's an overall more skilled game. But when you watch Guy Lafleur, it was pure excitement. Every time the puck touched his stick, you got excited. He was just a great player to watch. He didn't have a helmet, so you saw his long hair flow back, and it was just a beautiful sight. And the talent level, yeah, he was a franchise player, without a doubt. And he is, without a doubt, I don't have to hesitate. If you ask me, first of all, if you ask me who's the best player to ever play the game of hockey, I'm going to tell you Bobby Orr. I'm also not going to hesitate, because in my mind, that's who I believe was the best hockey player to ever play hockey. If you're going to ask me who was the best Habs player ever to play hockey, I'm going to say Guy Lafleur. And if you're going to ask me who's my favorite hockey player of all time, I'm also never going to hesitate, and it's Guy Lafleur. And anybody who watches this channel, I know I don't have a Guy Lafleur sweater. I used to, and I don't anymore. And as soon as I can, I will get one. Next question also comes from Staxers, and this is along these lines. How does Drouin compare to Lafleur? How does Jonathan Drouin compare to Lafleur? He compares in this way that in Lafleur's first 3 years, he was disappointing. We were expecting a lot more from him. The goals totals were not even close to what we were expecting. And just overall, his play wasn't as what's the term? He wasn't as I don't know if it's comfortable, or there wasn't as much flow to his game until he took off the helmet on his 4th season, and that's when it's like the helmet was holding his talent in. And once he did that, boom, the goals came, and for 6 solid years, he put up 50-plus goals, and Guy Lafleur was the best player in the game for 6 years. The best right winger, maybe the best player in the game for that amount of time. I guess you could argue Gretzky, and no, Gretzky came along after, so no, not argue. Sorry, and Lemieux came along after, so he was the best. He was the best. He wasn't the best at any one particular thing, but he was the second best, or you know what I mean. He's the best overall anyway. He did everything right. I remember watching somebody on Hockey Night in Canada saying that Guy Lafleur in that time, he did everything the best overall. Anyway, I can just go on and on, Guy Lafleur. I should do a video on him. The reason I haven't done a Guy Lafleur video is I don't know if I'll do him justice, and I'm afraid I won't, and I don't want to do a crappy video on Guy Lafleur. Like all my other crappy videos. I know, I can hear you guys saying that, so I can hear it. Okay, next question. Oh, no. So he compares in that way, in that in Jonathan Drouin's first 5 seasons, he's been disappointing overall, right? It's not that it's not that he hasn't gotten some decent numbers, but he still comes across as disappointing. So I can't exactly compare him. I mean, he's a good stick handler. He has pretty good vision. He has a lot of the attributes that a Guy Lafleur had, but he hasn't put them all together. So I don't want to go and say, yeah, he does this. And when he's got that season where he's put it together and, he's scored 70, 80 points, I don't know if he'll ever hit the 136 that Guy Lafleur hit at his peak. But it's a possibility with Drouin. He could do it one day. Had the dog. Okay, so as I was saying, I think he has the potential to be a Guy Lafleur. I think it's quite high praise for him right now. I want to see him do it before I'm going to say that, but he could be like a poor man's Guy Lafleur, definitely. He definitely has the talent. You could see it. Every time he carries the puck, you just expect something. It's kind of similar in that way, that expectation. He's a hometown boy. He's from St. Agathe, I believe. St. Agathe, which is a little north of Montreal. So I see so many similarities. It's up to him if he really wants to be a Guy Lafleur. I think he has the potential talent to be similar numbers. So yeah, but he has a ways to go yet. But I'm really up on Jonathan Drouin. I'm not down on him. I'm not putting him down. Changed my tune right now. Still expecting something to happen later in the season, or looking for it if it does, and hopefully it will never happen, and he's made that change like Guy Lafleur took his helmet off. Same thing. So we'll see how that goes. Hopefully I answered that, or I don't know. Next question. From Glenn Way, his first question. Montreal won 4 cups in a row in the 1970s. What was your favorite line? Again, this one is not even, I don't have to even go, oh, geez, who played together? Very easy. Center was Jacques Lemaire. On the left wing was Steve Shutt. And on the right wing was the Right Honorable? No, that's not right to say. He's not an elected politician. The greatest player ever to wear a Habs uniform, number 10, Guy Lafleur. So yeah, Lemaire, Shutt, Lafleur. The best line, my favorite line, I think the most prolific line of the team of that era, and yeah, I think it's one of those lines that every other line that ever played or will play for Montreal would hope to be. Obviously not a fourth line, but I'm sure in their heads they would hope to be that. So yeah, that's pretty easy for me to answer. And if you older guys that are watching this, if you're watching it, I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. What was your favorite line from those 4 years? So all of my older subscribers who would have been able to watch those years like I did, what was your favorite line from what years did we go? Yeah, well, in the 70s, I guess. So we'll take in all the 10 years, and that leaves a lot of line combinations. But that was definitely my favorite line, definitely overall. Probably ever, I would have to say. Next question. From Hab Nation. Don't worry, I was getting to your questions. I know you're thinking, hey, when is Rick getting to my question already? Okay, so he's asking me the next 2 are going to be similar, but 2 groups of players. Who was better of these 3 players and then the next 3 players? Again, to me, pretty easy to answer, but Brian Scrudland, Guy Carbonneau, or Mike Keane. And three very similar players. The difference between these 3 players that I don't know if a lot of people know, and I've said it before in a video or 2, that Guy Carbonneau in his junior days was a very good offensive player. I think at one point he had 200 points or more, or 109. I don't know. He had huge numbers, maybe 260. He had huge numbers in his final junior year. Like, he was a big offensive star as a junior, and the Habs drafted him, though, to be a third-line center. I guess something that they saw in their scouting, that they knew this guy could be a shutdown center on the third line and still produce. And he did. He produced 40, 50 points a year as a third liner in those days. So it's without a doubt Guy Carbonneau. I mean, look, Mike Keane was good. He was good enough to be captain. He was from what I remember, he was a decent point producer, but nothing special. And neither was Skrudland, although Skrudland holds the record for the fastest overtime goal. I don't know if it's just in Habs history or in playoff history, at I believe 8 seconds one year. So good players all around, but Carbo was without a doubt the better player, and he's in the Hall of Fame to prove it. Next set of players, John Kordic, George Laraque, and I don't know if I have to say the third one who goes along in that is Chris Nyland. So Knuckles Nyland, George Laraque, John Kordic. For Laraque, I'm going to say I won't consider him that much because, first of all, he didn't play here very long, and he played here at the end of his career. Yeah, he was a tough guy, a big fighter and all that, but I still think... Okay, first of all, Kordic was a big guy and a brute of a guy. A pretty decent fighter, and I think Kordic could have taken Laraque. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but that I think from what I saw, Kordic was a pretty good fighter. And a mean son of a bitch, too. I think he could have taken Laraque. And Nyland could have taken on both of them. And Nyland's probably the smallest of them, and I think Nyland was just by far the better fighter, better balance on his skates to do that job. Most determination as a fighter. Like Kordic, maybe he was mean and all that, but the determination to be the best fighter and to win that fight, I think Nyland just had it. From a tough guy from Boston, from the south there, a Southie, I think he was. Nyland was the best fighter overall. So Chris Nyland there and Guy Carbonneau in the first one. So yeah, I don't know. So you guys let me know what you think. Who would you say of those guys that I just said? So Skrudland, Carbonneau, and Keane, I think it's obvious for everyone. Who do you think was the best? And for the fighters, I think there'll be more variants. Kordic, Laraque, or Nyland. Who was the best of those three? In the comments section below, I really want to hear what you guys think about that, because for me it's easy to say Nyland, but maybe I think a lot of people are going to say Laraque. I think actually more people are going to say Laraque than Nyland, but for me it's Nyland. Let's see, what time are we at? Yeah, so there we go. I'm going to call it a video podcast. Thanks for listening in and watching, and I hope you enjoyed this one. Hopefully it's getting a little bit better. I don't know. I got to feel my way along with these podcasts. But one thing for sure, even if you don't like them, guess what? They're still coming every Wednesday. So every Wednesday, the podcast will be out. I'll touch on, stuff that happened the week before, anything current in the news, anything I can think of. If you guys want me to talk about anything in particular, leave questions in the comment section. Any other kind of ideas for it, let me know in the comment section. I'm always ears open to hear any of you guys' ideas. So thanks for watching this week. The Habs play, you'll be watching this Wednesday. So the Habs play tonight, if you're watching this Wednesday, in Arizona, and then the next night in Vegas. And then on Saturday, they are in Detroit. No. Why do I want to say Detroit? No, it's Dallas. So those are the next 3 games. And I'm going to watch them, and I'm going to do videos on them, and you can watch those videos, and hope you guys have a great week. Thanks for watching my podcast, and that's it. Wait a second now. I really should say, you can also subscribe and ring the notifications bell. That's down below, and that'll get you all of my things like this, the podcast and my videos and all that, on a almost daily basis, and give you your daily fix of Bleu Blanc Rouge. So hopefully you'll do that and give a thumbs up when you're on your way down doing that, and I really appreciate all that. So go Habs, go! Have a great week, everybody, and see you on the next video. Bye, y'all.